Aviana Priest uses the new Aviana card to be able to get a very powerful turns in your endgame. When you play it down, it starts a timer essentially on the game where you then will have your cards costing 1. And with that, you use Tyrande, which then casts the next 3 spells twice. And then with Champions of Azeroth, you're going to click Alliance all the time. And the cards you're looking for is Archmage Antonidas and Prophet Valen. The most important part is the Archmage Antonidas because you're able to then get the fireballs down for free. Or down for 1. The Prophet Valen obviously boosts up the ability for that. The overplanner and the twilight medium, they can be used in combination with each other to be able to get the Aviana turned down earlier, because if you use the overplanner and you see the Aviana, you can time it out to then play your twilight medium on it, and then it will be able to get it down as a one mana minion or one cost minion, and then using that, it will then be able to get you to obviously get your timer started earlier. The cards you're looking for in this deck is Birdwatching, Overplanner, you're looking for Twilight Medium, you're looking for the Kaldari Priestess, and the Soothfancy, because Soothfancy also gives you some extra value. Parrot Sanctuary is also quite a good card because it allows you to then get your cards out earlier as well, because you're ultimately just trying to cheat mana and to be able to get the combos out. Ancient of Yore is a card that you can obviously use to make it so you can draw extra cards, but it also means that you can then get some armor going against your opponent as well. Going into the game, I am playing against a Death Knight, so in most of the time, Death Knights are a slower class, so it means that this deck is going to be quite strong against it. In these videos, I am playing against Death Knight each time. I ended up playing down the Champions of Azeroth, but that's probably not the optimal time to be playing it down. It's probably best, and as I mentioned at the start, it is best to have Tyrande out earlier to make your likelihood of getting the fireballs guy out a lot easier, because if you don't, it means that it means that you ultimately can't do the OTK doing that to be able to win the guaranteed part. It's not the end of the world, but it is obviously a little bit weaker doing it that way, and you do want to make it so you have the increase the likelihood of what you need to do. I end up choosing the Holy Smite here with my immune, just to be able to get rid of their minion, just in case they had a reborn coming for it, because that would obviously got them extra value coming for their starship, and I don't particularly want to be playing too much of a value orientated game here. They end up taking out my priestess, and then they're getting the heals down with their Succs, which is a little bit annoying. I do end up just playing the Ancient of Yore here because I need to get the extra card down, and I did opt to use the coin and hero power just so I didn't end up overdrawing. I could have gone with the just using the brand Bronzebeard down as well, like that's an option as well, but yeah, it doesn't really matter too much. They ended up playing the Marn down, and then they are just going to trade in, so like it does mean that they are going to be healing quite a bit from that, and they're going to obviously reduce down my health total as well, so I do need to make it so I'm getting some minions down onto the board. Something that I didn't know before going into this game is that the Greater Potion of Healing draws a card now. It used to not draw a card, so that's definitely different to what I was doing before. I end up choosing the Ancient of Yore here just because I do once again need to draw some cards that are here as well. I play down the Greater Potion of Healing, once again not realizing that it did draw a card. And then I play down the brand Bronzebeard just to be able to get the extra, to not end up overdrawing too much. I do end up overdrawing one card because once again I didn't realize the potion drew an extra card. Fortunately for me, I did end up drawing into the Valen here, which obviously is going to be quite useful going into future turns. They end up using the Succ to be able to get extra damage down onto me, and I do have the Aviana going into a future turn as well. I just used the box to be able to put all those minions back into their deck. I don't really want to be dealing with too much at the moment, because once again I don't particularly have the strongest hand just yet. I do obviously have the Twilight mediums, and I feel like that it's potentially a better play to be able to get those down earlier to get the extra value. So my next turn is basically just going to be using the, probably just doing an AoE and getting it down onto the board. They end up using the Airlock Breach to be able to get some extra cards. I did draw onto the Blazing. Once again, this deck is quite a slow deck, so if you're playing against decks such as Warrior, or even like Nebula Shaman, those sorts of decks, Death Knight as well, it is quite strong. But if you're playing against more aggressive decks, it does have a little bit of a tendency to be not as strong against them. You need to just determine your different play styles for it. Like you could play down, you could use the 3-drops, but you don't obviously aren't able to use the combo to be able to take them out. They end up just trading into me. There's not really too much happening for them, I don't think. So it more than likely will be a turn that I'll just be using the Aviana now, just to be able to get it down onto the board. So they weren't really showing anything to me to really worry me, and with their board state at the moment, they are only posing the 5 damage, and I do obviously have the Ancient of Yore to be able to get the extra armor back up as well. I end up, I'm going to end up overdrawing once again, so it is a little bit difficult to make it so you don't overdraw, but since I've got the other Champions of Azeroth in my hand, I don't particularly worry too much about that. They end up playing down their Xavius, which isn't too much of a concern for me because I do have the Bob to be able to freeze down the board. I have a heal as well if I need to, so I'm not sitting in a terrible position. They play their Hemorrhage down, and they end up just putting some damage down onto my Aviana, which isn't too much of an issue. Like, it's not there to really deal too much damage. It's obviously there just for its ability. My Ancient of Yore ends up popping out, which is good for me. And I'm just deciding what I'm going to end up doing. So I just play down the priestess, since they're not really posing too much damage down here as well. I don't really need to worry too much about exactly what they're doing. And then I play the Tyrande down, just to be able to get its ability down onto the board. My Vellum will be getting ready as well, so it doesn't, like, I could have played it in a later turn if I really wanted to, so if I wasn't sitting in such a, a decent position, I probably would have gone for the freeze, or I would have played down the medium, since once again I am now just waiting until I get the turn where the Aviana's ability ends up popping off. They end up doing an entire board clear, which is fine. Like, it's not really too concerning for me. I'm just waiting for the Aviana ability to end up going off. I play down the Xavius. Once again, I'm just looking for cards that potentially could be useful. I end up just opting for the overplanner here, just because it means that I can choose the different cards that I'm going to be getting, and I also do once again have the Twilight medium as well. I end up just choosing the repackage just in case they end up having something that could be concerning for me, and then I just, don't really need to worry too much about the other turns afterwards, because once again I'm not really too concerned about what they can do, because I do have the Aviana play going. So they have their starship that's still getting built. They end up playing down their infestation, so it gets them to draw a few extra cards, but once again, it's not really in a position that really is concerning towards me. They end up trading, so they end up clearing most of the board that I have, which is fine. Like, it's not really doing too much against me. My Aviana ends up activating this turn, so everything comes down to a 1-drop. And I end up playing down the Ziliax just to get the clear down onto the board, and also get the cards out of my hand. I then play the Alliance, and I get the Prophet Balance, and also I get the Archmage Antonidas. I play down all my Prophet Valens. I use the Greater Health Potion, and then that gets a Fireball into my hand, and then I can just, if I needed to, I could just keep using Fireballs over and over. And as you can see, they're dealing 48 damage because it doubles each time. So it is pretty interesting, like, seeing how much damage you can get coming from that play. But yeah, like, the game's pretty much over as soon as you get that turn off. So as you could see, you do want to make sure that you're getting the likelihood of getting at least a Fireball. Getting the the Prophet Velen obviously is quite good as well because it increases your firepower significantly as well if you do need to deal more damage, but you are just trying to get the fireball guy most of the time. So going into this game, I do have a decent hand. I have the bird watching, I have the priestess, and I also have the soothfancy. So it means that I can have a decent turn going into the future parts. Something that potentially, if you are playing against more aggressive decks, is you might want to look at the early cards, like looking at some 1-drops and 2-drops that potentially could either contest the board or heal you up. But yeah, the way this deck is played mostly is if you're playing against slower decks, you will have a general advantage against them because they won't be able to deal enough damage to you, and you can then OTK them with your minions that you have. They end up just playing down their 2-drops, so they're not really posing too much of a threat towards me, so I do just play down the priestess here. There's not really anything I need to do either. I do have the Ancient of Yours in my hand as well, which is decent. They end up using the Frost Strike, so it does get the clear down, but they're not dealing any damage this turn, so it is starting to get later into the game, so now it's like essentially the mid-game now because of the 4. It's turn 4, so now that I've passed the early game, I'm going to start getting some cards online that will be able to defend really strong against their decks. And with the soothfancy, it does mean that you can obviously get the idea of what cards are coming up for you too. They end up just trading into the soothfancy to get it cleared, which is fine. Like, it means that they are getting a wider board, but unfortunately for them, they don't have any of the... They don't have the spider to be able to get the buff down onto them. I did draw into my Greater Potion, which is good, and I do just play down the Ancient of Yore just to be able to draw an extra card. If they don't have any sort of buff, I can just play down the Bob the Bartender if I need to as well to freeze the board, and they're not really posing too much of a threat towards me anyway, because yeah, like they've only got 10 damage on board, so it is a decent amount, but using Bob the Bartender obviously will be able to heal back all that potential threat they have anyway. I did draw into the priestess as well here, so I'm just deciding what the best play is. I end up opting for the priestess as well, just because I can use the Bob the Bartender next turn anyway. And I choose the shadow just to be able to get it down, and it does obviously give the extra buff to my guy as well. They aren't really doing too much at the moment, so they can trade into it using their Horn of Winter, their 2-drop, but ultimately it's not really going to do too much for them. Like, they'll be able to get a little bit of a clear down, but it is ultimately just so then they're able to use the weapon prop. And using the Bob the Bartender next turn, or if I want to, I can use the repackage. It just means that I do have extra value going into the next turn. They did end up locking their board by playing down the extra Succ, so it means that I will just freeze the board here because they're not particularly doing anything at the moment, and it means that I'll be able to decide what to do next turn, and I can set up more so for next turn as well. I could, if I really need to, use a repackage as well, so it just means that I'm sitting in a perfectly comfortable position because they don't end up getting to be able to do anything. I do play the medium down here because it means that it gets my Ziliaxes down as 1-drops. And I end up just playing down the first one, getting some trades down on the important minions that are there. And I just go face with the other minions. I then play down the other Ziliax as well because it is getting a lot of value, and because they're playing the Frost package, it isn't very likely they'll be able to clear the board very easily, so I've got into a very strong position going against them. Once again, since they're not playing a slow game, I don't really mind going more aggressive using my Twilight medium and my Ziliaxes just to get more control down onto them. They end up using the Frost Strike to be able to clear one of my Ziliaxes. It's ultimately not really doing too much to me because of the fact that I do have a lot of damage sitting on the board, and that's the reason why I got it all down, because since they're playing the Frost package, it isn't very likely that they'd be playing... I don't actually think they can play the AoE to be able to clear it, so yeah, it's not really too much of a concern for me. They end up using the weapon swing into one of my Ziliaxes as well, and with the damage that I do have sitting on board, obviously it's just lethal coming from that. They were trying to obviously think out how they could potentially survive, and they did get the mosquito down now, but it isn't enough for them obviously, because I do have, if I needed to add another Ziliax available as well. If you've enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe, and bye for now.